Is there a motorcycle that can take you from the landscapes of the east to the desert in the west, from the plantations of the south to the Himalayas in the north? The Himalayan was first experienced by the world in 2016. A purpose-built motorcycle that was engineered to take on the roads less traveled. It went through its own share of problems but eventually got better with time. And now, the Himalayan name breathes again.
Hello and welcome to PowerDrift and welcome to Manali. What I have with me today is a highly anticipated motorcycle. We have seen countless spy shots and made our judgments, but finally it is by my side in flesh and bone. This is the all-new Royal Enfield Himalayan. There's so much to talk about because this is an all-new motorcycle, new engine, new platform. But let's start off with the looks. Now, when I first saw images of this motorcycle on the internet, I wasn't too convinced because I thought it looked a lot like the older Himalayan. But right here in the flesh, I can tell you it looks different. However, I'm still not 100% sure of how unique the motorcycle looks from the front. But otherwise, from the side, from the rear, it definitely looks and feels a lot different. One thing to note here is that the tail lamp is now integrated with the indicators. What that has done is lower the pillion seat height so that it's easier for the pillion to get onto the motorcycle. The paint is nice, the switchgear quality is nice. To top things off, Royal Enfield aren't calling this the Himalayan 450 or the 452. They're just calling it the Himalayan.
Sherpa 450, that's what the new engine is called, and it's quite a cool name to be honest. Talking about cool, this is also the brand's first liquid-cooled engine. 40 horses, 40 Newton meters. It's not a long-stroke engine and it's a motor that loves to be revved. However, I still feel the bottom and the mid-range are stronger than the top. The old Himalayan's issue was highway performance, but this new one eats that for breakfast. There is a slight buzz around the tank and the bar ends on 6th gear at 115 km/h, but I don't see that to be a big problem. It's easy, calm, but I also feel it's because of the altitude we are at. It should feel a lot more dramatic and enjoyable at sea level. There's the Eco mode that changes throttle response to a softer map for the first 4 gears. But it's not recommended to switch that too often because it just feels flat. The ride-by-wire throttle opens up cruise control as an electronic aid, but it's not a part of their plans anytime soon. Royal Enfield claims that it will do more than 150 easily and will return a tank range of 450 kilometers.
The handling bit is a surprise. You know why? Because the wheelbase is more than 1500 mm. There's a 21-inch front wheel, of course, and the curb weight is still closer to 200 kilograms. But in spite of that, the Himalayan handles really well. Now, don't expect sharp handling because clearly this is not a sports bike. I also appreciate how well engineered the product is, especially the chassis. Now, when you start on a blank piece of canvas, there are a lot of things that can be done. And when they started working on the chassis, they realized that they could move a few things around. Now, with the new Himalayan, a lot of the weight is sitting low for better center of gravity. To finish things here, I never had a problem with the curb weight of the 411. But if you ever found that to be heavy, I think this is going to be easier to manage, not just when you take it off-road, but also when you want to take those sharp, tight U-turns. Now, this might look like a big motorcycle, but thankfully, it doesn't feel like one.
Because we are warriors. Because we are warriors.
The proportions also mean it's a great fit for taller riders. Not just in terms of how tall people will look on this motorcycle, but also ergonomics. Upright handlebar, nice seat. The seat is a little firm, but I did manage to cover 120 kilometers in one go, so it's not that big of a problem. It's also very spacious. However, it is scooped, so you're always sitting closer to the tank, but because it is spacious, you can always move around when you're out on a long tour. Now the standard seat is at 825 mm, but that seat itself can increase its height to 845 mm. If you still think 825 mm is tall, there's a lower seat option that can reduce the seat height to 805. Options, so many options. 805, 825, 845, I love it. Now when you decide to go off-road, obviously you're going to stand up, and the narrow profile of the seat means you're able to latch on to the motorcycle really well. Some of you guys might find the need to add risers to the handlebar, but it's not too big of a problem, I feel. Finally, the airbox moving to the top here, what that has done is allowed Royal Enfield to increase the ground clearance without having to compromise on the seat height too much. Not that the ground clearance was a problem with the 411, but more the merrier it seems.
The Himalayan was designed for adventure, for the Himalayas. But an adventure will always start from the house in your city, which means highway runs become a part of your adventure. This is where the new Himalayan really shines. Showa takes care of suspension duties, and they have hit the bullseye with this. While there is no adjustable suspension, the stock setup is very well damped. It feels settled and doesn't wallow around too much after you go through a bumpy section. And when your adventure does go off-road, the good feeling continues. There's also a decent amount of travel, and not once did the suspension bottom out. Really well done. I wish there was adjustable suspension as a part of their accessories lineup though. To have the ability to fine-tune your ride is an incredible thing, and I really hope the brand is listening to this.
Fully digital instrument cluster. Honestly, there's so much going on here, there can be a separate video on it. But to keep things crisp, here's what I have to tell you. Different layouts, full navigation. There's a joystick that can toggle between different options, and there is a dedicated menu button on the left-hand side of the handlebar. The biggest takeaway from this screen right here for me is Google Maps, and I think that is incredible. But there's a downside.
You have to keep the screen running while running maps, because the moment you switch it off, the console switches to the turn-by-turn mode. It's also consuming a lot of battery because of the exchange of data, but there's a USB-C type port to keep things going. It is a little confusing at first because you only have two buttons to switch between data, maps and music, and I feel it can be optimized better, but it's a good start. There isn't a lot going in the electronics department apart from the switchable ABS and the ride-by-wire throttle that I spoke of earlier. I wish there was cruise control though, something that can be used at will on those long highway trips. There's also the question of traction control, but here's my take on it. The way the power is delivered is not outright scary, and the Himalayan doesn't become a bucking bull when you open the throttle. Having a safety net is always welcome, but there's also the question of cost. In any case, if you are buying this as your first motorcycle and want to go off-road, start off with the eco mode and then progress.
A great ride can always come to a halt if you meet with a puncture. Imagine riding in the mountains, in the Himalayas, all by yourself, no one in sight, and you get a flat. Unless you know how to fix a tube tire puncture, It's a major inconvenience, no? But Royal Enfield has tubeless spoke rims, but they're only for the global market for now. You see, the brand is importing these tubeless spoke rims from other countries, and for those rims to be officially sold in India, they need to go through a BIS certification. Unfortunately, there is no timeline on this, so it can happen in a month, 2 months, or even 6 months from now. Royal Enfield is importing these rims for export, is why the global market gets it, and unfortunately, we don't. 5 colors, 3 variants. Now essentially there is no difference between the variants, mechanically, software, hardware, no difference at all. So what you'll essentially pay for is a different color scheme. Now talking about pricing, that will be announced in a couple of weeks. My heart says rupees 2.49 lakh, but my head says even rupees 2.75 lakh ex-showroom is going to be a steal. I know the internet is saying the Scrambler 400X is a better motorcycle, but here's my take. Wait for the Scram 450 based on the same engine. I think that's competition. As for this motorcycle, as for the Himalayan name, it was always an adventure tourer, but I feel the new Himi is a tourer that can now go on an adventure comfortably. Highway performance is not a problem at all now. Comfort, no problem. Covering long distances, no problem because bigger tank. Navigation, no problem at all. The new Himalayan is so friendly to ride. It can be your first adventure tourer, and I think it will be a great upgrade for current 411 owners as well. However, for the experience slot, I personally feel the 300 Adventure is a better choice because it has that drama, it has that excitement. But for the rest, the Himalayan is a great motorcycle. I know you have your questions about quality, but the brand has reassured us by telling that they have learned from their past, and that's why it took them so long to get the new Himalayan out on the road. I still need to test a couple of crucial things. How is it going to feel in the city? Is heating an issue? And above and beyond everything, how does the new Himalayan feel at sea level with no breathing problems? That remains to be seen later, but for now, the new Himalayan is here. If you have any more questions, please drop them in the comment section below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. If you like this video, press the like button, and yes, I am ready to go on an adventure. Are you?